A decade ago, Tesla was leading the electric vehicle revolution. But now, a Chinese company called BYD has raced ahead to become the world's top-selling EV maker. In 2023 alone, BYD sold over 3 million electric cars and hybrids. Should Tesla be worried? Well, not as much as European automakers. BYD sales are booming in Europe. In this video, we'll look at the meteoric rise of BYD, how they left Tesla in the rearview mirror to become the EV champion, and why this Chinese giant has European car companies racing for their lives. In 2011, young Elon Musk was asked if his thoughts were on an unnoticed Chinese automobile company, BYD, which had just established a branch in America in competition with Tesla. But, a decade more, BYD has surpassed Tesla to become the largest electric car manufacturer globally in terms of numbers sold. In the fourth quarter of the year 2023, BYD sold a record-breaking 526,000 electric vehicles powered by batteries, which is 40% greater than Tesla. While a majority of recent news coverage is focused on BYD's growing competition against Tesla, Tesla isn't the one that should be concerned. Tesla has still surpassed analysts' expectations during the final quarter and sold a record 1.8 million electric vehicles in 2023. Even if it had fewer vehicles sold than BYD, this is largely because Teslas are higher priced in comparison to BYD vehicles, and that's the reason why Tesla continues to earn significantly more revenues. The companies that ought to be most concerned about are European automobile businesses. Although BYD isn't selling that many automobiles in Europe, with the majority of its business being from China, however, the market share of BYD is increasing quickly. The latest data we discover from August indicates that BYD's European sales are growing by 1,300% year-on-year. The AT03 from BYD is the most popular EV sold in Sweden. Just a few months ago, BYD announced its intention to build a brand new facility in Hungary. It's evident that, with Chinese demand slowing down and America becoming more protective, BYD now sees Europe as its next destination. It's not surprising that the growth of BYD, along with other Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers, has caused certain anxiety within Europe. In the last quarter of 2013, the Commission declared they would be opening an investigation into the possibility that Chinese EVs are being unjustly supported by the Chinese state. When BYD was created by Chairman Wang Jianfu in 1995, it was a manufacturer of rechargeable batteries for laptops, smartphones, as well as other electronic devices that were designed to be less expensive than Japanese imports. BYD began to venture into automobiles in 2003 when it acquired an unprofitable state-owned auto manufacturer, Chingchuan Auto, which was then rebranded as BYD Auto. After the production of one car powered by combustion engines back in 2005, BYD focused its efforts towards electric vehicles during the latter half of 2000. It is now producing EVs as well as hybrids. It was in 2008 that it developed the first hybrid. While it wasn't sold as well, it did enough to attract the attention of famous American investment guru Warren Buffett, who bought 10% of the company, $232 million in the same year. At first, BYD did have a difficult time entering the market for electric cars and focusing instead on electric buses, electric lorries, as well as taxis. The company was particularly struggling at the end of 2010 as EV sales slowed down, which resulted in a decline in profits for BYD over 3 years. In addition, Wang acknowledged that the only objective of the business during that time was to make it through the tough times. But things took off for BYD amid the outbreak. The reason for this is largely related to Honda car, which was launched in 2020 and features BYD's latest Blade battery, which is, per BYD, they are among the best and safest batteries currently available. The Han has gone on to become one of BYD's most popular automobiles. The sales of BYD's electric vehicles in China almost doubled annually through 2023. BYD has since then released many innovative EVs, which include the BYD Song, the top-selling EV in China, as well as the BYD Dolphin, which is the top-selling EV in Brazil, as well as the BYD AT03, which is the most popular EV for Israel, New Zealand, and Thailand. Presently, BYD isn't just one of the largest electric car companies, but it is also among the largest private enterprises across China. Why are BYD vehicles so well known? It's simple: the cost. BYD automobiles are much less than those of their Western counterparts. The typical BYD costs around $22,000, which is about half the price of a typical Tesla. The AT03 is available for under $44,000 in Europe, which makes it one of the least expensive EVs that are available. The next question is what makes BYD vehicles so affordable? It's due in part to Wan's brutal approach towards cost reduction, which has been a cult within the business world. BYD is also massively supported by the Chinese government. BYD has been able to receive more than $1 billion worth of directly funded subsidies from China that have helped the company stay on the right track in the last quarter of 2010. That's not even counting the indirect subsidy that comes due to the devaluation of China's currency and its insufficient labor laws. However, the primary reason appears to be the vertical integration of BYD. To put it in perspective, this implies that BYD produces everything internally in contrast to traditional automakers, who typically purchase the bulk of parts from suppliers and then build the vehicles. Volkswagen is an example. For instance, it only produces 35% of all the parts that make up the ID.3 electric vehicle. From the outside, this configuration, which is known as horizontal integration, appears as if it would make sense. In the end, why should you think a car firm such as Volkswagen has a knack for battery technology and programming? But in recent times, highly well-known car manufacturers such as BYD and Tesla have been moving more towards vertical integration, bringing increasingly more of their components within their own. Tesla has a production capacity of 68% of the parts for the latest Model 3, roughly double the production of Volkswagen as well. And BYD manufactures 75% of parts for the Seal, the flagship version located in China. Vertical integration has become more commonplace recently due to a variety of reasons. One reason is the threat of globalization slowing down. Supply chains have become less solid than they used to be. Vertical integration also gives businesses greater flexibility as they can adjust and modify their plans much more quickly, which is important in a highly dynamic and competitive market such as EVs. Vertical integration is particularly effective for BYD since, well, BYD was formerly an energy and battery business, which is an essential component of the latest electric cars. BYD is the second largest manufacturer of lithium-ion batteries after CATL, which is from China. This provides BYD the advantage over the old-fashioned automobile manufacturers who are trying to transition into electric cars, who had to struggle to develop great batteries or software in cars. BYD also has lithium mining facilities, as well as an internal chip manufacturing department, partly because BYD Auto's parent firm BYD Company Limited produces all kinds of solar panel systems for industrial machinery. In the introduction, the rise of BYD and the other Chinese auto companies has scared Europe. In the past, China exports virtually no cars. Chinese firms tried breaking into the market for cars in the mid-2000s, but their combustion engine vehicles were not able to compete with Western massives. The cars that they did sell were predominantly to China's tinier Asian neighboring countries. Over the last couple of decades or so, the situation has changed. After 2022, when EV exports nearly tripled over 1 year, China surpassed Germany to be the largest EV exporter. In the same year, China unexpectedly overtook Japan as well as Germany, which are traditionally two major auto exporters, to become the biggest auto exporter in general. Even though BYD, along with other Chinese firms, don't have the majority of cars sold in Europe in particular, their numbers are increasing recently. In addition, BYD has opened up 150 outlets across the continent. The company has caused real concern within Europe, in part because automobiles are among European countries' top exports, but also because the demise of the European automobile industry could be emotionally and financially devastating. The situation has also created fears among European leaders about the deindustrialization process, which is the idea that most of Europe's heavy manufacturing industry was shifted overseas in the globalization period in the 1990s. And 2000s, which is leaving Europe at risk of being a geopolitical vulnerability. As an example, Europe isn't equipped with the ability to supply arms and ammunition to Ukraine, and this has resulted in an uneasy dependence upon the US. That's the reason why, last year, the EU launched an investigation regarding China's subsidy for electric vehicle companies. Also, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen claimed that China's flooding the European market with cheap EVs. France is already introducing new laws that exclude all Chinese EVs from subsidies by the state because the supply chain of their suppliers isn't green. However, this poses an issue to the EU. There is a valid reason for protecting the European automobile industry, even if the EU introduced 25% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, which is the case currently happening in the US. BYD cars would still be lower than many European cars. Limiting access to low-cost Chinese electric vehicles could also delay the process of transitioning to energy, since many Western electric vehicles are too costly to be affordable for the typical European customer, and could lead to a trade war with China, which has since followed up with their inquiry into EU exports of brandy, evidently in anticipation of the possibility of a trade conflict. Last year, Wang made a call to local Chinese automakers to come together against foreign companies, saying that China was expressing an emotional need to see a Chinese brand become global. In the end, even while the EU may bring in new tariffs for Chinese EVs as well as BYD in the coming year, there is no way to know if it will suffice to help protect Europe's ailing automobile industry, which is in battle with American protectionism as well as Chinese competitors. BYD's growth should concern European automakers more than Tesla. BYD sales are surging in Europe. What do you think? Can Tesla survive the threat of BYD's affordable and increasingly popular electric vehicles? Share your predictions in the comments.